G'day battlers, and today we're jumping into cycle 2 of Silph Arena Factions, where today we have two brand new field metas hitting the scene. Now, if you don't know what Factions is at all, I'm going to link a kind of old video of mine that talks a little bit about just that. So essentially, it's a team format where 4 players on your team of up to 9 are going to be battling in one of these two field metas, the Comet Field or the Twilight Field. Now, the Comet Field, completely brand new, never seen before, made specifically for this cycle. The Twilight Field is a little bit of a meta back from the dead now. The Twilight Cup was the second ever Silph Arena meta back in 2019. So it's definitely changed a lot. There's a lot of things that have happened since then, but I'm actually going to talk about the Twilight Field at the end of this video. So most of this video is going to be focused on the Comet Field because it is such a brand new thing. And then, yeah, I'll talk about the Twilight Field at the end. So there's going to be the timestamps in the doobly-doo below. So you can skip straight to the Twilight Field meta discussion if you'd like. But for now, let's jump into the Comet Field. So Comet Field, you've got fire types, flying types, ice types, normal types, and psychic types, with bans on Mega Pokemon, Altaria, Defense Deoxys, Medicham, Wobbuffet, Chansey, and Mantine. So a lot of those sort of bulky or just generally annoying Pokemon like Mantine are taken out of the fold to kind of evolve the meta a little bit. So just real quickly, the Twilight Field is Poison Ghost, Dark Fairy, with bans on Megas, Nidoqueen, and Pawniard. They're like new bans because of the freshness of the meta, I suppose, the fact that it's a little bit different now. But again, I'll talk about that more towards the end. So let's jump into the Comet Field, take a look at what is good, and I think the best way to do that is just by bringing up the image. Yeah, there it is. Oh, sorry. If you wanted like those sorts of screenshots, you can get it there. But essentially, these are the Pokemon that I've got on the meta right now. You can see we've got 6 main groups on the graphic, and then also someone hanging down just down there as well. But quickly going through, we've got the top left group, which is a big, like, it's a party going on over there. We've got not fighting types, but fighters in that Vigoroth and the Obstagoon. We've got the normal lickers, things like Lickitung, Snorlax, even Zangoose, who's got Shadow Claw, who operates the same with a Ghost fast move, but also some heavy pressure. A lot of those Pokemon like Snorlax or Zangoose have that or big fighting damage as a charge move as well. And then we've also got Malamar as another, it's a weird group, let's just put it that way. It's also got a fighting move in Superpower, so I'll talk about that group once we get there, but just introducing the other 5 groups, we have those ice waters in the middle with the Lapras and the Celio. And the Celio and the Dugong. Celio is not on the graphic, but is in this meta. But again, talk about that in a little bit. We've got Ninetales just standing on its own. Then back to the bottom left, we've got the Alolan Raichu. We've got the Flies in the bottom middle with the Gyarados and the Mandibuzz. And then in the bottom right, we have the non-Ninetales fire types, I guess. They're more a kind of groundy fire types, because like Diggsby has the ground type as well as Fire Punch. And then Marowak does have Bone Club, even though it's not like a great move. It's kind of like the ground fire-ish sort of group. And then, yeah, we've got Wigglytuff hanging off on the right. So starting off with the party group over in the top left, we've got all sorts of things going on, as I said before. And there is like some common threads that link it all together, and it's kind of the matchups across the board elsewhere. So we can see we've got the arrow going from that group towards the Lapras and Dugong. Now, you've obviously got the Pokemon that have counter, so the Vigoroth and the Obstagoon. They're just going to be adding up heaps of super effective damage on that counter damage. Then you've got the things like Zangoose, Snorlax, able to put on, and Malamar as well, that are able to put on these big fighting moves. Now, their matchups overall across the board are going to be a little bit bait dependent, because something like Malamar that has that superpower, you're going to need to land that superpower to get the big damage on, and every time you use it, you're debuffing your attack and defense. So it's a little bit of a gamble. You know, if you don't land it, you may lose matchups that you might otherwise win. So of course, Vigoroth and Obstagoon are going to be the much safer options in that regard, but I definitely don't count the other ones out. And Lickitung, even though it doesn't have like a big fighting move, it's got that Power Whip, so Power Whip obviously hurting the water types as well. So they're beating that group. There is also the arrow to the Alolan Raichu in the bottom. Now, Vigoroth is kind of the exception to the rule here. Vigoroth generally loses to Alolan Raichu, although Vigoroth can actually win that. And with Vigoroth being like, look, I'm just going to say it, Vigoroth is going to be a pretty big defining Pokemon in this meta, like kind of big defining. It's another Vigoroth meta. It's obviously a really good save swap. It is every time it comes around. So you're going to see Vigoroth swap in, get a little bit of energy, and then if you swap Alolan Raichu into that Vigoroth, Alolan Raichu may not come out of that one victorious. So even though the arrow is going from the party to Alolan Raichu, it's not going to always be the case. And I guess it's a little bit moveset dependent as well, because Alolan Raichu can have a lot of different moves there. But moving on to the flyers in the bottom middle, they've got the arrow going towards the party group, and that's kind of just like, well, for one, they're generally going to beat the fighters. They're also just generally able to put the big hurt onto those Pokemon that, I don't know, they're just kind of win in the end. I mean, Mandibuzz resists a lot of that ghost damage that's coming in from the Zangoose, Snorlax, Lickitung, etc. And then they're just kind of resisting that big fighting damage that's coming through. So they're able to kind of just fight their way through that. And generally, I think in this meta, Gyarados is going to be running Waterfall, which we'll talk about all that in a little bit if I don't forget. But then we have no arrow between, oh no, we have the arrow from Ninetales to the party group as well. That's not a completely across the board. They don't like just all lose to Ninetales. I think Vigoroth might have a little bit of a better time up against Ninetales. Actually, that's a complete lie. I think Ninetales actually has a pretty good time up against Vigoroth as well. And Vigoroth being one of those Pokemon that you're going to want to have as many counters as possible on your team. I think Ninetales is sort of a unique Pokemon in that regard. Like there's a very much difference between Ninetales and the fires in the bottom right. And the difference between them is that there is no arrow between the bottom right group and the party. But that is actually because, one, Diggsby has the normal typing, which means that it's going to be weak to all of that fighting damage that's coming through. And then Alolan Marowak generally has a decent-ish time up against like Vigoroth, but then all the other ones have like the ghost damage from Snorlax, Lickitung, Zangoose. They've got the dark damage coming from the Night Slashes from Obstagoon. They've got the night damage coming from the dark damage coming from Malamar as well. So Alolan Marowak isn't really safe there, which is why those two, the fire groups have been separated into Ninetales, which is going to be a bit more of a commanding force in taking those out as opposed to the other ones. Now, I think that's kind of all we have to say about that group, so we'll move on to the ice waters in the middle. We've got that Lapras and the Dugong. Dugong, a really annoying Pokemon. Even though Mantine has been banned, Dugong has not, so they are going to be causing some havoc there with the Icy Wind debuffs. And then Lapras is a little bit more standard. I think a PvPoke actually might be recommending Water Gun on Lapras instead of the normal Ice Shard Ice Beam, which kind of is because of those fire types that are running around. So obviously this group generally going to be beating both the Ninetales group and the Alolan Ninetales and the Alolan Marowak and Diggsby in the bottom right. They're also, because they've got that ice damage, they're going to be beating the Gyarados and the Mandibuzz generally. They're then going to be losing to Alolan Raichu, as you may expect, because of the big electric stuff coming through. And then also generally, as we said before, losing to the big party group. And then Celio also exists. I think generally Celio is a little bit worse in this meta, just because the body slam spam, like if you want body slam spam, go to Vigoroth. Celio is just going to be like a Vigoroth that is even weak to just some of the other stuff that's flying around. So I think it's just safer to go with Vigoroth in that regard. We'll move on to the Ninetales though. Ninetales are definitely a bit of a dark horse in this meta a little bit. I mean, I said it's like rank 3 in PvPoke, so I don't mean it's like an under the radar spice pick, but it's kind of an interesting Pokemon that hasn't really seen this. I'm not sure if it's seen this level of use quite, but yeah, Ninetales has some pretty good matchups against the board across that party group, so it's definitely like, it's going to be a pretty key Pokemon, I feel, because it's going to be countering all over the meta. It also generally wins against Alolan Raichu. It's then going to be losing to those water ices generally, and then also losing to the Flyers, especially Gyarados if it's got that Waterfall, and then is also going to be losing to the Diggsby as well as the Alolan Marowak. Now, obviously Ninetales is a Pokemon that has some different moves as well. Like you could go, I think generally Overheat is the better big nuke move to go for to pair with the normal Weather Ball. We've also got Solar Beam that could flip the Lapras or the Dugong matchups if you happen to land it. So there's definitely some considerations there, definitely some sort of spice that you might be able to get through. We'll jump back over to the bottom left-hand side with the Alolan Raichu though. Alolan Raichu, as we said before, generally losing to the group that has a lot of dark and ghost going on, but is okay against that Vigoroth. He's going to be beating the water ices. He's going to be beating the flies as you'd expect. Then you're going to be losing to those like muddy sort of fire types. The I keep saying Alolan Raichu, Alolan Marowak, as well as Diggsby. Not a great time. And then there is no arrow. Oh no, there is an arrow. So I keep saying there's no arrow there, but there definitely is. It's a 1-on-1 Pokemon matchup. Ninetales, as we said just before, generally going to beat that Alolan Raichu as well. Bottom middle, we've got the Flyers, we've got the Gyarados, we've got the Mandibuzz. We've kind of gone through most of the matchups at this point. Generally beating the fighting group, the party group, losing to Alolan Raichu, losing to the ice types, beating Ninetales, and then there is actually no arrow there between the Flyers and the muddy fighters. That one actually is a mistake. There should definitely be an arrow there. There we go, we have an arrow. Okay, so generally it's going to go that way around, especially with Gyarados. Really good matchup with Waterfall. Mandibuzz are able to soak up the ghost damage, and Alolan Marowak doesn't really have anything to throw. And I guess Diggsby doesn't really either. It's got Fire Punch. That's about it, all it's got. And then last group on the graphic, we've got the 6th group. We've gone through all of the matchups at this stage. Well, not all of them, I guess. There is the party group that we didn't actually quite talk about before, but beating Ninetales, losing to the Flyers, losing to the Ice Waters, winning up against that Alolan Raichu, and then with that party group, you've got the, a lot of stuff is coming towards the Alolan Marowak, all of the Ghost and Dark. Alolan Marowak does not like it, and then the fighting stuff, Diggersby does not like it either. So generally, it's going to be, the party group is going to be beating the Alolan Marowak and Diggersby. Now, we've got that Wigglytuff hanging out on the side. There's also Alolan Ninetales. Both Charm is Charm. It's definitely going to be a good move. There's Dark types flying around. There's the Mandibuzz, there's the Obstagoon, there's Malamar. There's just things like Alolan Raichu that aren't super bulky, so Charm can really just force their way and just wreck them completely. So I didn't put Charm on the main graphic, but Charm is definitely going to have a place in this meta. And I mean, even Alolan Ninetales without Charm, with Powder Snow Weather Ball, it's still going to be a force that might be around. It's kind of going to be analogous to that Ice Water group in the top middle. So definitely expect to see some of that as well, especially as the meta sort of shifts and people figure out what's good. I mean, I can tell you right now, Vigoroth. So many teams can have Vigoroth. This is going to be a very... Look, this could be an annoying meta. We'll just have to wait and see what Cycler2 has in store for us. But I think that is the Comet stuff, kind of, that's what I want to say about the Comet meta. Actually, just before we move on to the Twilight meta, Lickitung does actually generally beat the Ninetales as well, although it's a little bit close. Like, it's not like a dominating win for Lickitung. It's not really a dominating win, like, either way. So, I don't know, just keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Twilight meta. So I'll actually jump back. Okay, and for those who just skipped straight to the Twilight Field meta, skipped all of the Comet stuff, hello. But yeah, it's essentially Twilight Field. It's not too crazy. We've got the Poison, the Dark, the Ghost, and the Fairy, same as when the Twilight Cup was originally run. It's also got a fancy new badge, actually, so that's kind of interesting there. They've decided to, I guess, it's a little bit revamped, so it's nice to see. And then we've got the bands on the Megas, Nidoqueen and Pawniard. Now, Nidoqueen is definitely like, it's been buffed to all heck. It was super boosted in the last GBL season. It's just, it's got that Poison Jab, Poison Fang combo now that is just wrecky. As Speediest Chief said the other day, I'm Nidoqueen, I Poison Fang, I win. And then Pawniard is actually an interesting Pokemon. It's got super effective moves for the for Ghost, for Dark. I think it has one for Fairy, but generally not going to be running it. But I don't think there's really anything to maybe hard counter it in this meta. So I think that's why they've probably taken it off the board on this one. You can still see Pawniard sweep a tournament, Luna Cup tournament, if you'd like, on this channel. Subscribe, by the way. But yeah, basically, I'm not going to be doing a new Twilight Field Meta Simplified infographic this season round, or this cycle. I'm going to direct you instead, now don't like jump off just yet, I'm going to direct you instead to the Twilight Cup Mirror. The Twilight Cup Mirror Cup Meta Simplified infographic, which is essentially, first the Twilight Cup came around in February 2019, and then came around again in a Mirror Cup form in somewhere around August 2019, when there was definitely some changes from the first time to the second time. So I have an updated one from the second time, and I'm going to tell you about the changes now. So I'll link it. It's going to be linked in the description, and then also it's going to be linked like up there once I talk about these changes. But essentially, I think there's 3 big changes between then and now. Not that I haven't done like a huge deep dive into it, but the big changes seem to be, 1, Beedrill has Drill Run now, which means it's going to have a grand move to really hurt the Poison Darks that are really, really strong in the Twilight meta. There's also Mandibuzz that exists. Now, Mandibuzz is going to act a little bit like Umbreon on that graphic. So kind of just, when you see Umbreon, kind of think Mandibuzz as well. Obviously, it's known as the Mandibuzz of the sky, or alternatively, Umbreon is known as Landibuzz. And as I'm blatantly stealing from the comments of the Luna Cup, I think it was the Luna Cup Meta Simplified infographic, which I absolutely love. Huge shout out to you. And then also, I think the other sort of major-ish change is that actually, there's 2 other changes. 1, poisons have just been buffed in general. So things like Drapion are just more, it's got Poison Sting now, so it's a bit more spammy, it's a bit more dangerous. And then also Ninetales, Alolan Ninetales has that Powder Snow Ice Weather Ball combo now. So it's going to be a little bit more scary to some things. I don't think it's going to be like the biggest thing in the meta by any means, but it's definitely going to be a little bit more scary and might shore up some other teams there. But with that sort of knowledge that just poisons are going to be better, that's the main takeaway. Definitely go check out that video to get a bit more of an idea about how that's going to work. I kind of like, as I've said before, these videos are kind of built to be a sort of starting point. So, you know, watch the video, get a basic idea about how this meta is going to work, and then run out there, see what works for you, build some teams, do some practice, and go from there. So with that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one. Thank you to all of my patrons as well for being super duper duper cool people. I need to move my thingy out of the way, which I need to figure out. Oh, I didn't come with it. Bummer. And subscribe if you haven't already, because I mean the new Silph Arena Meta is coming out probably in a few days time, because they say 7 to 10 days before the end of the month, so expect that soon. Don't miss it. And yeah, I did cut my hair just like right there, sort of bowl cut style, because it was getting in my eyes, and I'm not out of lockdown yet, so I can't get a haircut for like another few days, so haircut soon.